talked a little bit about your home life growing up when you guys were young. There was you, there was Lorraine, you had 2 older brothers.
Right.
What order was it? Who was oldest, who was youngest?
Perry and myself, we're just a year apart, each of us, something very close to that. So she was quite a surprise because she was 7 years younger than me, and a complete joy at that time to come into our family. So she listened a lot, and we had fun with her, and we had a lot of company during that time, and it was kind of the Depression time where people were hungry. So Mother always had a big pot of soup on the back of the stove for the dewdrop-ins at 6 o'clock.
Is that what they were called, the dewdrop-ins?
The dewdrop-ins.
I love that.
And all kinds of people, prominent people, and Mother would say whatever the children's favorite food was, like mine was the wing, but Perry or somebody had the breast and whatnot. So if Mother came close to you and said, "You're having soup today," that meant for us to give up our particular, if a distinguished person was there.
Did Lorraine ever have to give up her food? How did she feel about that?
Well, she, for a long time, I don't remember her ever being, we knew not to be fussy about that, because the person who was coming could be someone very distinguished, so you wouldn't be fussing about food. We just get our soup or take a shorter or smaller piece.
Who were some of the people that came to the dewdrop-in nights?
Jesse Binger, who was the famous banker. When the crash came, he had a stroke. So he came to our house every day for dinner. Daddy invited him and enjoyed talking business with him. So Daddy would be at the head of the table. Jesse Binger would be the first seat, and I would sit next to him because he couldn't feed himself. And I would give him a fork full of food and maybe do something else at the table.
Where would Lorraine sit during this?
Lorraine was somewhere over to the side. When she was really young, she had a high chair, of course.
Probably soaking up all that information.
And, yes, and also she also had a nurse that if anything happened at the table, the nurse could
So you guys had a nanny, basically.
Yes.
Love that.
Lorraine enjoyed everything. She was a very pleasant baby.
Is there ever a time when she wasn't pleasant? Give us one little tidbit. Is there anything she was so passionate about that she broke the rules just to do it, or?
No. And you know, it's been a long time ago.
Yes.
She liked to dress up in Indian costumes a lot, and you would see her in a room in front of her mirror acting out.
Oh.
And that was funny.
Like a young actress, the beginnings of her writing.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
I've never heard that before. That's
we
amazing.
love the Indians. We knew the problem the Indians were having because Daddy kept us informed about what was going on in the world. We had lots and lots of books and pictures, and that's why many of the great African American people would come through our house, like Paul Robeson, Jesse Owens, the great athlete, and of course the poets that wrote Raisin.
Langston
Langston
Hughes would come to your house for. He was a dewdrop-in.
Well, a lot of them would call first, or like when Paul Robeson came, he, there was a lot of advance notice for him, and that was a little later time also. Can I tell you about his coming? Paul Robeson was being threatened, and his passport had been taken, and his bodyguards came. Well, they wanted to come to do a 3-day concert, and that was arranged at the big churches in Chicago, like Bethesda and all the others. But it was very dangerous at that time for Paul. Our government was cutting him off, and he had made arrangements with the 3 churches. He was going to stay 3 days in Chicago to raise money and do concerts. But Lorraine called to ask Mother if he could come. She said sure. And his bodyguards came the day before, and guess what? They licked our butter.
They licked your butter? Oh, to make sure there was nothing wrong with it.
That it wasn't.
That's very old world, like Henry VIII of them.
Yes, and of course we threw the butter out the next day. But that was the length. They were all up on the roof.
To make sure he was
safe.
They
checked that building out.
And this is when Lorraine was older, because I know she had a relationship with him when she was
absolutely
older. I believe she traveled abroad for him, correct?
She went to South America, I think, on his behalf.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I remember
raise money or something. But anyway, he never got to the churches. He was able to call that off because when the city found out that he was there, they came through very top people. They came to our house to give him a check. He raised so much money, he didn't have to do the concerts.
That's amazing.